favorite part.
And that flavor should be all the way through that brisket. Am I right?
Brother, this Hey friends, Greg Hudson here, and welcome to Rocky Mount, North Carolina, the birthplace of one of America's best jazz musicians in history, Thelonious Monk. So we thought it only right to come here and find one of America's best restaurants. And that's just what we found. You see, my guy Ed, who you're gonna meet, is the son of a famous jazz musician, and now he's creating some music in the kitchen all his own. So come on in, let's grab a bite at Prime Smokehouse. This is gorgeous. You have to be Yalam.
I am.
Pleasure
Yalam. Nice
to meet you.
Welcome.
This, I mean, you know, when you say the word smokehouse and barbecue, you get a certain vision in your mind, but this just feels swanky and upscale and inviting.
Well, thank you. We don't look at it as an upscale. This is really, like you said, it's a barbecue place. However, my husband had a different idea and I had a different idea. So we had to meet middle ground.
Okay, that makes sense.
We moved here about 2 years ago. And then I've used all his father's memorial. As you can see, his pictures are here. And all of these are arts that were given to us. Really, all of them are African arts. And that would be his mom and dad, as you can see at the back there.
So, okay, because when we walk in, I mean, you see all kinds of jazz memorabilia. I saw a saxophone up there. So that's from his father, Ed's father.
He used that. In fact, that was his last saxophone that he used to perform.
So his dad's a pretty big musician then, it sounds like.
Yes. You know, he's been playing music all his life. He's a great artist. He recorded a lot of music. He even had one of top jazz music in the 30s.
Man, so, okay, now this is starting to make sense. Because you do, as soon as you walk in, you see, I mean, you get that, it has a jazz vibe to it. I mean, I even see a stage over there with a drum set, a piano. So jazz it sounds like is a big part of the culture in this restaurant.
Well, this is his culture.
Yeah.
So Ed's dad traveled in the South before it was open to all the black musicians.
Sure.
And one of the reasons actually he became a great chef was because he cooked for his musicians. You know, they could not go into a restaurant and eat in the restaurant.
Gotcha.
So he said to himself, I'm not going to go into a restaurant through the back door to eat. So therefore,
he just learned how to cook.
That's right. That's why. And everything we have on the menu is really his recipes.
So it's coming down from Ed's dad down to him, and now you've got an entire restaurant featuring that food.
That's right.
That he would cook for jazz musicians.
That's right.
And now this all makes sense. So, well, let's get into it. I want to try a few things here.
This is one of a few of our appetizers.
Okay.
We have, of course, we're known for our smoked food, and we smoke everything in our smoker for 6 to 15 or 18 hours, depending what we're smoking.
Right.
So these are the wings, and they fall off the bone. They're smoked for 6 to 8 hours, as you can see. When you bite them,
6 to 8 hours for chicken?
Well, the chicken, the brisket, the pork. You know, the bigger the meat, the longer it takes. I know you're probably gonna need a napkin for that.
Did we get this on camera? Because I've never seen a chicken wing just completely fall off the bone like this. That's how tender this is.
And that's how the bronze chicken is, and that's how the ribs are, which I'm sure I'm going to send you to see him back there.
Look at this, though. Yes, this literally fell off the bone. You guys are doing some pretty special things back there.
They rub them and they put them in the smoker, and then we lightly put the barbecue in before they come out.
That sauce is incredible, too.
Is that
Ed's sauce?
It is. It's our homemade sauce. We have it already bottled, but yes, it's our homemade sauce. And then those are the fried green tomatoes.
I love fried green tomatoes.
You know, we're in the South, and that's what the South is known for, is for green tomatoes. But it has a little bit of twist in it, so it's a bit crunchy at the same time, and then you get that softness, and then it has the special sauce.
And that's what you want.
Well, that's right. Take a bite, and then you will,
There's so much going on there. It's just lightly breaded enough.
It is.
That you get some texture to it.
That's right.
But that tomato still has a nice chew to it as well.
It's
And that sauce is the
crispy.
ultimate compliment.
It does.
What kind of sauce is that?
That's what he makes. I wish I knew.
We'll call it his jazz sauce because he's just improvising.
He has sauce for everything. So that one is served with our fried green, and it's also served with our crab cake sauce.
So with crab cake as well.
Yes,
Well, we
so
got to
you
try
have one for the crab cake, and then you have one for the fried green tomato.
And I think it's a pretty safe bet that you're making the crab cakes in house too.
Of course, Ed was born in Baltimore.
Oh.
And actually, Ed and Mom met in Baltimore. So, as
Hence,
you know,
you gotta have a good
Baltimore-
crab cake then.
That's right. Baltimore is known for its crabs, and this is Baltimore. And really, it's Maryland style crab cake.
I see, and it looks
Right,
like
and then
again
we get the that's right.
a lot of crab in there. I don't see a lot of
lumpy.
bread. I see a lot of crab though.
Lightly braided. It's full of lump, and it's hand sauteed, so you really get the lump in there. Just barely any bread to just hold it together.
I mean, barely. I'm serious. Hardly any
it's
bread
just-
is in there.
Yeah.
And you're keeping those chunks of crab thick. I just got a real burst of sweet crab flavor.
That's right.
This is incredible. I mean,
That's your Maryland crab cake.
for a place that's on paper says it's a smokehouse with barbecue,
I know.
you guys are doing some pretty special
We
dishes
do a
here.
little bit of this because everybody comes here. We become sort of a stop place here.
A destination.
We have become that. So anybody that's coming up north is going to stop in Rocky Mount on their way to Florida, and then anybody that's coming from Florida, this is sort of halfway point.
Sure.
We didn't realize that when we moved in here. So now we have customers that come in every year,
Yeah, this
twice a year, Christmas time, and then when they go south for the summer, and then they come back summer up north. So we get them.
You read
both
my
ways.
mind. I mean, this would be a must stop. Every single year if I'm traveling with my family or going up and down, wait, we're going to make our stop, here,
This has
definitely.
become really, it's amazing. But, we have local fans that love the place. They do all their celebrations here, birthdays here, anniversaries here.
Yeah, we saw a
And then-
birthday when we first walked in the
That's
door.
right. Every day there's always an event here.
It sounds like it.
If it's not a birthday, it's an anniversary. If it's not an anniversary, it's graduation. If it's not done, and it's some sort of celebration.
But this is the place, if you live in Rocky Mount, this is the place you're coming for all those big celebrations. There's no other place
That's
for
right.
this.
We do that, and then of course every month now we've started our jazz. That's another reason to come here.
Some live music as well.
We have live jazz. That's right.
Well, I'd love to meet Chef if he's around, if Ed's
Well,
here.
I will definitely take you there.
All right, let's go
Okay.
meet Ed. This is wild.
And there's more where that came from. So get ready.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Rita Barrett, and I am a Prime Smokehouse regular because of the great food, the exciting ambiance, being on the water. The food is amazing. Everything is homemade, and that to me is appealing. The presentation is amazing. The staff I love dearly. They know me by name, and I love that. That's just like cheers, and going to the Prime Smokehouse for dinner is always a plus in my book. It's usually my date night with my husband, and I'm here with my girlfriend, my niece, my family, my confidant, all of that today. But we frequent here because we love everything about it. There's nothing left unfold here. They take it to the next level. It's like not even being in Rocky Mount. I feel like I go out of town for a minute.
Hi, I'm Sarah Parker. Prime is really becoming a favorite of mine. I would have to say the macaroni and cheese, the salmon. My aunt over here put me on too. I don't think if it was for her, I wouldn't have found it, but good taste.
What's this stuff?
Here are the guys.
All
You
right.
must be Ed.
That would be me.
This is the man we have heard all about, the brains behind it all. And I'm Greg. What's your name, sir?
My name is Jibby, sir.
Jibby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you must be like head chef back here. What's going on? One of the main guys in the kitchen.
He's my right hand man.
Your right hand man.
He's my assistant.
That's great. Well, listen, first of all, as soon as I walked back into this kitchen, I got smacked in the face with that smoke, man.
Yeah,
So I feel like we're about to open up a present on Christmas morning. What you got in here for us,
let me
man?
show you a little bit about what we got going on here. Right now, this is some of the beef briskets that we have working. These briskets, we use hickory and cherry wood, and it's cooked for about 18 hours.
18?
18 hours. These
That's
briskets
see.
cook.
I mean, I know brisket
So
takes a while, but that's
You're gonna see. Jibby, grab a couple of these and sit them on this sheet pan if you
Get
don't
out of
mind.
your way here, fellas.
You'll see.
Look at that.
Let me see what we got here.
So 18 hours. And what do you got rubbed on there? I can definitely
So-
see some bark.
We use a rub that we've been using for many years now. My father showed me how to do it, but essentially it's smoked chili peppers, ground chili peppers, like a paprika, sort of a chili powder paprika kind of a thing. The important thing about the way we do this is that, you know, I'm married an Ethiopian. My wife Yalan is an Ethiopian, and the key spice is berbere. And so this is like a berbere spice that we use on this. So that African influence is in the rub that we put on these briskets.
That's unique,
really-
man.
right.
That's
Makes it very
special.
different.
Tell me we can get a slice of this and taste
Yes,
it.
sir, we're gonna do this. And one of the things that's important is, you notice now a lot of people wrap briskets.
Yeah.
I don't wrap them. What I do is I trim less fat off. I season them very heavily, and I'll show you that. And so that juice renders down through it as it cooks very slowly. I never let it get over 225 degrees. And then these briskets are juicy, tender, and flavorful, you'll see.
So that fat, I mean, you leave that fat, just let that seasoning render into the fat and go right down into the meat. And what that's gonna do, guys, and we'll see, we gotta taste it, but it sounds like that flavor is going to go all the way through,
you'll
not
see.
just on the top.
That's right, absolutely.
Oh, man. Well, we gotta go, we gotta slice these bad boys.
Okay, so here at Prime Smokehouse, we try to keep it fresh and new. We do a seasonal cocktail menu twice a year, summertime and then fall. We have all North Carolina tap draft beer. So we started that right when we got here in 2013. There was no craft beer here in Rocky Mount, so we really wanted to highlight all the great North Carolina beer. So everything from Asheville to Raleigh to Kinston, everybody's represented here. And then of course we're in this beautiful Rocky Mountain Mills. They actually produce beer on this campus as well. So we also have a couple of those as well. And then we also have an extensive wine program where we have a rotating list, a master list. We do retail, but it's all really special wines that you can only really get here at the Prime Smokehouse. Try to curate that every once in a while. Bring a lot of wine experts in. We're starting to do wine and beer pairings with our food. So a lot of good, exciting things happening.
Okay, now just so you know, this entire station is for a chili we're gonna be making?
We're gonna make a chili, yes. And what we do is, you know, a lot of folks put hamburger in a chili, but at Prime Smokehouse, we use our nice, tender beef brisket.
You're not skimping on that chili,
No.
are you, brother?
So, and one thing is, when you cut this brisket, it should be juicy. I'll show you.
Oh, look at that just melt right
So
off there.
That's right.
Oh, I mean, that's
This is the way, you know, this is the way it should be.
Look how delicate that is.
Oh,
I almost had it.
you almost died.
But it falls apart. I mean, it's just so
That's
tender
right.
though, chef.
This is, I don't wrap it. You know, a lot of people wrap it, but I don't wrap it. I just cook. You see how nice it is.
Wow.
And we do something very different too, is that on this part, of the thicker part, where the fat is,
Yeah.
what we do is we pull this beef, we pull this in. So we separate it from the fat, we pull it, and we chop it, and this is our chopped barbecue beef sandwich.
Oh, okay. I mean, that just,
This is,
you can pull that out with a spork.
that's right.
It's
That's
that
right.
tender.
And look, this is smoked for 18 hours. Hickory cherry wood, the seasoning we use, this is the rub. Don't mind that guy's picture on the.
Now, see, I saw this out there. I was wondering about this. We got to get this on camera. Brother's got his own rub. And so this is the rub we're using
We do
on
one
here.
for brisket. That's right. That's what I use on this, and I have it in big containers of it here.
Beautiful.
That's what we use for this. And so.
Yeah, can I get a little
Yeah, of course. Grab that.
Oh, yeah, a little fat on there too. Be careful. So delicate. I'm holding it with two hands.
You got it. You can't run from that fat. That's the bark. You know.
That is my favorite part.
And that flavor should be all the way through that brisket. Am I right?
Brother, this is next.
You can't be
level.
afraid to season it. You have to season it very heavily. Season it through the fat, let the fat drip, let it drip through the fat.
I think that might be the lesson for today. If you're smoking meats at home, especially brisket, man, don't be afraid to be
right.
generous with that rub, because
There's
it
nothing
does. It
like
goes all the way through.
There's nothing like eating a piece of brisket that's bland, or that it has you're pulling.
Right.
You don't want to pull on it. You want it to fall apart in your mouth. Some people would say, well, it's too tender. I don't think there's a such thing.
I do not either. Well, let's build this chili. Oh
Okay.
my goodness, that's good.
I'm going to show you what we do when we do our chili.
Yeah, please do.
I start off with onions. Plenty onions. Usually yellow or white onions. This is how I start off. And so what I have in here is about, in this small pot, we make 40-quart pots of chili. I'm gonna give you the abbreviated version, okay?
That's fine.
And we'll go right here. We'll get this hot. Just put a little bit of oil. Don't need much. What's important is that we caramelize these onions. That's everything. When you're making stews and soups and stews, you need to layer flavor. So you want the onions to be caramelized. Then we fold in the fresh chilies, green peppers, different variety of different peppers, red peppers, chilies. My spoon, Jim. Give me a big spoon. So we'll let that work for a little bit. I don't know.
Already starting to sizzle a little bit.
Yeah.
No, we're fine.
Okay.
We're fine. So we're
Hear that?
building the base of flavor here before
That's
we
right.
start adding that brisket.
That's right. And so what I do is I get the vegetables first before I add this brisket. I get the peppers and the onions and garlic. Can I see the garlic, Jimmy, please? Fresh garlic.
And you know what else I like is that you're cooking by feel.
Yeah.
You took just enough onion. What you think? We got some garlic here. We're gonna add some
Minced
of that.
garlic. We use a lot of garlic. So we process.
Oh, look at
And for this, I'm going to put a couple nice big spoonfuls of garlic. We use a lot of garlic in here. Here you go, Jim. Layer that out. And when you cook, you cook by sight, you cook by taste, you also cook by sound.
Yeah, very true.
so
I never thought of that, but yeah.
When you're browning these onions for a stew like chili, I want to hear them shh.
We're getting that.
You see? I want to make sure that nice, that means I got a nice hot sear happening.
I love that. I'm sure you guys can hear that at home too, that nice little sizzle. And you're right, it's by sound as well.
That's right.
We always say by sight and by taste, but that's a pro tip right there. Listen to that sound when you're talking about onions, garlic, when you're browning garlic, right?
We get a
sizzle.
nice,
That's like music, isn't it? That's like one of your dad's tunes. It sounds good, baby.
And cooking is a lot like jazz.
Yeah.
And there's times you improvise, but there's structure. So there's a lot of relationship. I understand now why my father was such a good cook.
That improv jazz.
He was gifted music and in the kitchen.
That makes sense. Both of them are this blank canvas with which you can create.
And he could turn anything into something good to eat. He could. And he had 7 kids, So you
got to get creative.
You got to be creative.
He was playing Chopped before there was Chopped. Oh.
Yeah, you smell that?
Yeah, there's some jazz going on in here.
And look, this is the most extensive part right here, is getting the onions right.
Yeah.
After this, everything just rolls into place,
And with the onions, are you looking for something maybe like a translucent color or a soft texture? What are we looking
These
for?
need to be caramelized. They need to be brown.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
You need to pull really nice color off of that because the sweetness of the onions and the garlic pushes through once you get a brown on it.
And that's what I was going to say. With brisket being such a rich meat, a rich protein, by caramelizing, that's what that does. It brings out the sweetness of that onion, and man, it's like jazz. It's like the drummer's going to play well with the sax, And
garlic, when you use fresh garlic, it's nutty because there's a nutty taste to it. It really adds. You'll see when this chili's finished exactly what I'm talking about.
Gotcha. This is great. So we're going to cook these down, add some more ingredients, and we are this close to trying that brisket chili. So the chili is ready. You saw that entire process, all from scratch. It's rendered down about an hour, ready to taste.
All right.
And look at this, man. Just all you got to do is look at how thick and chunky everything is on this. And I love those chunks of brisket. You can see it right on top.
Oh yeah.
Get in there.
And the other thing too is it goes well with whole kernel cornbread. We do whole kernel cornbread muffins here.
Is that so? Whole kernel is that a little bit different than what most people do?
Yeah, what we do is we add corn to it. We add whole kernel corn to our corn. It's a basic recipe: cornmeal, flour,
But you're adding
sugar,
real
eggs,
corn in there, the
butter.
real
We
kernels.
put whole kernel corn in.
To get in here.
That's hot now. It's hot now.
I know, but I see a piece of brisket with some smoke ring on it that I have to have. This is great. Are you kidding me right now?
Man, you got steel lips, brother. Don't you, Jim?
Couldn't help it. I love it.
What do you think of that?
You know what? It has that foundation of what you would expect from chili, but then what you've done is you've used that just as a building block, and you are just adding flavor to that. And that berbere, is that what you said? That is so unique, that flavor
really
profile. I can't even describe it. It's kind of smoky. It's a little bit hot. And then, of course, the brisket, which we've already tried. I mean, that is a decadent chili, chef. I'm sorry, I got to get back in here. I mean, look at this. This is what you're talking about. That big chunk of brisket. It's almost like the prize at the bottom of a box of cereal. You know, it's like, oh, I got one. Yes.
Nobody's missing hamburger meat when they get that.
I think I'm just going to be brisket chili only from now on.
That's right.
I'm getting them. So what else are we trying today, man? We've had some appetizers. Your brisket's incredible, and I mean that you guys do a ton of stuff, though, right?
Oh yeah. You know, this is the Prime Smokehouse, and most people think about smoked meat because we specialize in that. But seafood is a really big part of our menu as well. I mean, it's
You
a
got
really
seafood
big.
here as well.
Yeah, I mean, fresh salmon, scallops in from New Bedford, big, beautiful, never frozen. You know, our gumbo, New Orleans style gumbo.
Oh man,
It's a Cajun gumbo with a dark roux.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's got to be rich and flavorful too.
steaks, our hand-cut steaks. I mean, those things are 2 inches thick. You know, ribeyes, strip steaks, and filet. You know, so the filet mignon are beautiful. Everything is
Man.
hand-trimmed, hand-cut, and you know.
Put the feedback on, everybody, because I think we might be really getting into some stuff next.
Oh yeah.
Jeff, Jimmy, you guys are the best, man. Let's head out to the dining room. Well, thank you both for taking the time to sit down with me now. I got to speak with both of you individually, but get you to take some time now to sit with us. I really appreciate it. I see how busy you guys are getting right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Appreciate you coming.
And listen, I didn't realize this. Chef just had a surgically repaired knee, right? You just had
That's right.
surgery on your knee?
That's right.
And he's still running around and still taking the time for us here to hang out and chat with us. Now, I got a lot of questions, but first and foremost, gotta get into this gumbo, right? We saw the work that it takes. That dark roux takes, 5 hours to put together?
Takes a long time.
And this is what the finished product looks like. And again, I love you don't skip on ingredients. Golly, I mean, there's scallops in here, there's shrimp, crab claws. I see what you mean about it needing to cook down to get that depth of flavor. Because we tasted it just after it was made, and now here after it's been cooking together for
Has
a
to
while,
marry, yeah.
it's been major difference, chef. And you're right, that roux and that broth have thickened up a little bit.
That's right.
Here, so
Between the okra and the filet and all of the proteins really brings it together nicely.
So this is fantastic. You have you won awards with this? If not, you should.
My father was from Houston in the Gulf, and he made the best gumbo. So that's handed down to me from him.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. Because you briefly touched on it, but there's a big history here. This harkens the memories and a bit of an homage to your father.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Tell us that story, Chef.
My father, Ed Wiley Jr., was a great man, first of all. He was a nice man. But he was a jazz musician, you know, and so during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, as he was traveling through the South, everything was segregated. And so for his bands, he didn't want them to have to go in the back door of restaurants to eat. So he cooked for them. And so all of this food that you see in this restaurant was pretty much things that he fixed back in the day for his bands as they traversed all through the South and through the United States. So I feel privileged, you know, as we built this restaurant. it's really built around the fact that growing up, we had jam sessions at the house, all these great musicians. He was making barbecue, he was cooking gumbo, and all of this is sort of a throwback to those days.
Man, I would love to have met him. What a guy.
Oh yeah, you would have loved it.
And this is the quality of food he was cooking for his musicians?
Absolutely.
And these are his recipes?
Well, you know, and the funny thing is now, you know, things are in fancier plates and, you know, everything is decorated with a piece of parsley and so forth. But really, the food that is featured in a lot of places harken back to, you know, things that aren't so fancy. A gumbo's not really a fancy dish. I've layered it with so much flavor and so many things like crab and all of this stuff. But
yeah,
you know, back in the day, it was just things thrown together and they came out beautifully and look nice.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, Chef, I don't care if you put this in a paper cup, it tastes good. I don't care what the vessel you're eating out of it.
And let me say this too. You know, the difference between my father and the average person who cooked good, his stuff always looked like a magazine cover.
So that,
I mean, his stuff was beautiful. And Yalam, you know, saw, you know, his food was beautiful. I mean, if he did a duck and glazed it, he garnished it with oranges. And I mean, he just did, everything he did was just beautiful food. So I try to channel that as I'm cooking food here. So it's not just a country dish, but it's something that's beautiful and flavorful.
And so we're doing that with the food, but then Yalam, I know you had a huge hand in decorating this place.
Ooh.
And it sounds like you really brought that same mentality into the decor here.
You know, when people think about barbecue, they just, you know, they think about some sort of a shack. That's what he was going for. But then I thought myself, well, I love going and listening to jazz with him. Sure. And it would always be nice if there was something to eat and then something to drink while we, you know, enjoy the show. So when we got to this place where we're doing this, and, you know, and I thought of everything else that I wanted that to have. So, you know, it's coming to really our home. The food is going to be home-cooked, delicious food.
Sure.
And the place has to look like you're coming to someone's home. I know it's a restaurant, but I had to, you know, the arts, the color, you know, I mean, you had to have that.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm in an upscale, yeah.
I told her, I said, I want to open up a barbecue shack. She said, I like the idea of doing a restaurant, but I don't want to be in no shack. I don't want a shack. And
because, you know, you want to be, as a wife, as a girlfriend, as a mother, you know, or you want to go to a place, you know, it's a Friday night, a Saturday night, you want to dress up, go somewhere that's comfortable and nice and eat really delicious. Who doesn't want to do that?
That makes sense. So that's what you've really implemented here in this.
But, you know, you said she decorated this place, but I'm going to tell you, she designed this place. This was all rubble when we walked in here. She said, we should put a bar over here, put the kitchen over here. She thought about the color concept in here because it reflected back to, she's from Africa. She thought of the savannah. She wanted the golds and the ambers and
yeah, like the sky out
That's
there.
right. And so really all of these colors in here reflect her.
And you know, right here we sit right by the Tal River. So as you can see, the lights are beautiful that come through this window.
Yeah,
and then we have another window on the side. And then we have the lights that just really plays out. It looks like you could be in Africa right now. You could be in Nairobi where I grew up.
Oh my goodness. That is what's
you know, you always feel the sun, you know, so I mean I had to bring all that together because this is where I mean, we're literally here every day.
I would imagine.
So,
and it does, I feel like I've walked into an upscale jazz loft. Like it's your home that you just invite people over for lunch or dinner with really good food. But
I'm glad she defied me.
Place.
I'm glad she didn't do the shack thing. You know? But you know, she's right, you got to come back. That's right.
Now, I'm going to try this mac and cheese in just a second, but let's talk about this mural that you have back here.
Yeah.
This is special, Chef.
And you know, I got to give my wife credit one more time because she said it would be great to have a mural, mom and dad. That's my father, Ed Wiley Jr., saxophone. I hung a few of his records. I didn't have a wall for 100 records, but I picked a few. And that's my mother, and they met as my father was touring. She sat in with the band, and he said, "You're good, you want to join the band?" Make a long story short, a few years later, they started making 7 of me. That's right.
Oh my goodness.
That's right.
So he invited her in the band, just part of a way to woo.
That's right. He did. Maybe. Hey, I'm glad he did it. You know. And they married a couple years later, and they started having us.
And
you know,
is it 7 of you there?
That's right.
Where do you fit in that 7?
My father and mother had 3 daughters.
Okay.
And then they had me. And then they said, he's such a gem that we're going to try and see if we can have some more. So he had 3 guys after that.
Inspired 3 boys after. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I mean, you've got Louis Armstrong up there, and then you and I had a chat about Thelonious Monk.
Yeah, he's from Rocky Mount. He's not too far from here. He was raised not too far from here before he left and went to New York and started doing his jazz thing. But he's from Rocky Mount, and that's him, that's a young Thelonious Monk on that poster.
When you told me that, I'm like, I thought he was like a New York guy. No. And then, listen, if you're not into jazz, look up Thelonious Monk. This guy's on the Mount Rushmore of jazz.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
When it comes to America,
and I got to give some dap to the guy Brandon Jennings, who did this mural for me. He's a wonderful artist. He's an amazing guy, and he did that for me. So I got to give him some dap.
Well, I did.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where he's at.
He did a great job with that. While you guys were looking at the mural, I'm not gonna lie, I snuck a bite of that mac and cheese. That is Southern home style mac.
I've won 2 awards on that mac and cheese.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I'm looking for my drunk uncle somewhere to come at the barbecue with that mac and cheese. That is like home style stuff right there.
Thanks.
That is a winner.
Can I try scallop over there if you're on your
Oh yeah. Oh, look at those. Those are giant New Bedford, never frozen scallops here. They're always fresh and nice when we can get them.
And look at the sear chef has accomplished on that. That's what you want. You want a scallop that has a nice little sear on the edge, but then still in the middle, not overcooked. And that's exactly, you achieve that to perfection, chef. To perfection.
Sweet, right?
You can really taste the difference between pre-frozen scallops and fresh. That's just a bright ocean sweetness. And that, what's underneath there? I'm getting a little sweet. Is that a glaze of some sort?
No.
What?
That's the sweetness from the scallop. There's no glaze on that.
Are you kidding me?
Well, let me say this. Let me say that it's laying next to a piece of glazed salmon too.
Okay.
So the salmon, probably a little bit of that might be touched on that, but that scallop is sweet in the middle, like I put sugar in it. It really is.
My gosh, that's great.
It's good scallop.
So you started off downtown. You moved into this space 2 years ago. Where do we go from here? What's the vision? Because I can see you guys are visionaries. What's the long-term play here? Is there one?
I just, it's funny because, we did this we were in Raleigh first. And then the city manager of Rocky Mount visited our restaurant with his wife and Charles Penny. And he visited the restaurant and he said, what do we got to do to get you to move to Rocky Mount? And I said, what's a Rocky Mount? I never know what a Rocky Mount was, But it sounded good. We came, looked the town over, and it was up and coming. And it seemed like a good place to put a restaurant. At the time, we were going to keep the restaurant in Raleigh and open this one, but it seemed like it didn't make sense to try and do that commute and run a successful restaurant.
Makes sense.
And so, it's a good hour drive to Raleigh from here.
Sure.
And so we opened this, and it began to grow. And we were there for almost 10 years.
Goodness.
And they began to develop this mill, which is known as the Rocky Mount Mills. It was an old textile mill, and it has several different things within the complex. They started to develop this, and they approached us about building a restaurant here. And so that's how we got here. And we built it during the pandemic, which was a tough time, But it worked out perfectly. The pandemic was waning just as this was ready to open.
So timing couldn't have been better.
And the people really embraced it. The people of this community, this is really a wonderful community, Rocky Mount. And I didn't hear of it until we moved here. And it's just really a wonderful place to live, right?
And 2 thoughts on that. Number one, once the pandemic finished, everybody couldn't wait to go out and just have a great meal.
That's true.
Normal again. But number 2, you brought something to this town. You're right, it's an expanding, growing town, but you brought something to Rocky Mount.
Thank you.
That's one of a kind, guys. You both, you really did. From your menu you're putting together, to honoring your father, to you putting your touches on. You're right, you designed this place. I didn't realize it was absolutely nothing.
That's right.
Your vision, your eye, your design, coming together. You guys built something that this town, I feel like, hasn't seen before.
Thank you.
So, congratulations on everything you're doing.
No, we
here.
appreciate it.
And
Thank
this
you.
is definitely a destination restaurant. So
We're thankful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, scratch-made food in a design space like that, this is definitely a place worth driving to. So if you're wondering if it's really worth your time to go out of your way to come to Rocky Mount, North Carolina for this place, I think I'll answer you with my favorite Thelonious Monk song, Well, You Needn't, because this is definitely one of America's best restaurants.